a Russell Wilson trade. That's the answer. You trade your two, and it seems increasingly less likely that Russell Wilson will be dealt based on sort of how that thing's concluded in Seattle. You know, we saw Russ very excited on the sidelines with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll said he's not going anywhere, that he believes Russ it can fit, but maybe that'll change over the course of the offseason.
Same deal with Joe Judge. A couple of weeks ago, you would put the percentage a lot, lower that he would be fired, ends up getting fired. And then the reverse situation for Russell Wilson, where probably a point in the season, somewhere after that return from the injury and things looked bleak and he wasn't recovering quite as quickly, where you'd say over 50% Russ was on another team next season. And now, I don't know your odds, but 10, 20%?
I would say maybe 22% that Russ is on.
22.
Just random. Yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, if the Giants were able to trade Daniel Jones and their 2 first-round picks for Russell Wilson.
5 and 7. 5 and 7 is what the Giants have. 5th is their own pick, and then the 7th from the Bears off the deal last year.
The problem is that Daniel Jones is like rookie deal is almost up, and he hasn't been healthy and had been very good. Maybe the Seahawks, if they decided they were going to rebuild, and I just don't think Pete Carroll wants to rebuild at his age. You would do 5. You would say 5-7 in next year's first, or 5-7 in a second for Russ.
I think it's a great deal, good deal for Seattle if you decide as a franchise it is time to move on from Russell Wilson. If there's any inkling that he wants to stay around, then I think you pass on that offer.
Yes, I agree with that completely. So I don't think, I think he might be. I think there's a chance that he's still dealt, but I don't know. I mean, if you're Pete Carroll, are you really trading Russ Wilson and thinking like, all right, I'm 70, we'll just reboot this thing up with no Russ and a couple of the Giants picks and a questionable draft? I mean,
and I know quarterback matters a lot when we talk about these vacancies, but even with the other circumstances around the Giants, they don't bolt to the top of the list, do they? Even with Russ, I know he's super important, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, future Hall of Famer, but they don't bolt to number 1 or 2, do they? Or do they get pretty up there for you?
They're pretty up there if they got Russell Wilson, especially in that division where, I mean, the Eagles made the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. Dallas looks good, but you don't feel like Dallas is just going to make every smart move from now until the end of time. And then it's been bandied about like the Giants should go try and hire Will Clay. Is it Will Clay or it's not Will McClay? Will Clay. Is it McClay? How am I forgetting this? Oh, well, look.
McClay.
Is it? It's Will McClay, right?
McClay. I'm just going to reference your list yesterday when
it's
we.
Will McClay. No. Will McClay would be he's the VP of pro personnel with the Cowboys, and he's like the guy that but he never gets a credit as being GM. He can never be GM because Jerry is. So you go and try and lure him to the Giants to run it. I don't think he would do that to the Cowboys, but you would hurt the Cowboys and. Bring in a guy.
Just as a reminder, before we get to the next coach candidates, your list from yesterday, most desirable jobs to least desirable. You had Jaguars, Vikings, Broncos, Bears, Dolphins. So right now, Giants
dead
in
last.
At number 6.
They might go to number 1. I mean, are you sure you're definitely not? I mean, are you definitely winning more easily in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence than you are with Russell Wilson? I mean, Russell Wilson, the Giants look a lot like you get an offensive coach and let Russ cook and get some, Kadarius Toney. I mean, I think, Galladay was a bust, obviously, but he can be better. They got some players. I could talk myself into it for sure.
All right. So coach, you come in with the mindset that there is this potential Russell Wilson deal on the table and the Giants ownership thinking, maybe we have a chance to acquire Russ. In that case, which coaches make sense?
This is pointed out by The Athletic, theathletic.com. Dan Duggan at the Athletic. He said the obvious conclusion is that it's hard to find a good head coach in the NFL. The Giants haven't even been looking at the right candidates. They didn't interview Frank Reich. They didn't interview Mike Vrabel. They didn't interview Doug Peterson before he was hired by the Eagles. And they didn't in this and he wasn't on the Giants' radar. I'm saying, and it points out, is this true? They attempted to interview Sean McDermott, Sean McVay, and Matt LaFleur. Surely
you would think.
Oh my.
So we remember just from going back to their last coaching cycle, which was 2 Januaries ago,
Yep.
the whole deal with Matt Rule, right?
Oh yeah.
Where
That was the Jets.
was it?
It was the Jets who wanted to make him bring in somebody. But the Giants did interview Matt Rule, I believe.
Okay, I thought that was the Giants. I know they also
No,
spoke
it was 100% the Jets.
to McCarthy.
But Matt Rule coached for the Giants previously.
Okay.
So in 2018, when they hired Shermer, I'm getting this from Duggan with the Athletic. Their other interviewees were McDaniels, Spagnuolo, Matt Patricia, Steve Wilkes, Eric Studesville. In 2016, when they hired McAdoo, the other field of Giants candidates were Spagnuolo, jeez Louise, guys, Doug Marrone, Adam Gase, Mike Smith, and Terrell Austin. Wow. Of those, of all the people that they've interviewed, excluding the two that they hired, there was one winning season between the entire pool of candidates that they interviewed, and obviously one with McAdoo. So 2 winning seasons amongst 6 head coaches out of the entire pool of people that they interviewed. So something is not. This is not maybe even about who's getting hired.
Oh, they just have to this year hitting on like 3 of the 6 interviews would be a win. They don't even have to hit on the head coach that they're going to inevitably fire in 2 more years. They just have to start getting these interview rights to set themselves up for 2024.
Would you want to see your buddy Doug Peterson in New York?
No, just coming from a fan perspective, I don't want to have to go up against a former coach. I'm glad that Andy Reid is tucked away in the AFC West, and Andy Reid, a better coach, clearly, than Doug Peterson. But no, I don't want to see Doug within the division. But I think it's someone that makes sense and is popping up on every single interview list that we're seeing. So if the Giants want to have at least one interview hit, talk to Doug.
Yep,
so let's go ex-girlfriend route. Crazy ex-girlfriend. We're staying away from it. Josh McDaniels out.
I don't think Josh McDaniels is out.
Okay. Just the Belichick disciple, the whole, you said the Dolphins can't go Patriots route because of Flores. Same apply. I know we got the special teams world here with Joe Judge, but
yeah, I think Judge is more like I don't think McDaniels would. I mean, I get it. I don't think it removes his name from the conversation though. Like, I think you can still go talk to him. Brian Daboll would make sense. Also, the Giants being in the NFC, and Belichick likes the Giants, like reveres the Giants, hates the Jets, reveres the Giants organization. So I don't think Belichick would be super annoyed. But Brian Daboll, Nathaniel Hackett, Jim Harbaugh Jim Harbaugh. I know I mentioned Jim Harbaugh on every show, but like the dude wins.
It's a similar list. If you're Harbaugh, are you going to the Raiders or the Giants? Let's
probably,
with all due respect to Rich Bisaccia,
probably the Raiders.
Yeah, but
unless you got Russell Wilson, obviously,
very well might not be an opening. So
right, exactly. And then Doug Peterson, I think, makes sense. I think that the Giants need to stop trying to find their Belichick or whatever they think, like find their next guy. Get some, like Tom Coughlin worked in New York. It is a really difficult market to coach in. It is, Joe Judge was pronounced safe and still wasn't safe. It's a hard market to coach in. Go get somebody who has experience coaching in the NFL in the past. Daboll wouldn't work there, but Harbaugh,
Hackett, Gerard Mayo.
I'm not trying to go find some offensive coordinator who's like the next guy. The old formula of just you find an offensive coordinator who's a hot name and hope he can become a good coach, because it hadn't worked for. I mean, that's. Shermer had, Shermer had experience in Cleveland, of course, and that didn't work out, I guess, either. So, I mean, I'm getting somebody. Yeah. But I mean, like, he wasn't good in Cleveland. Yeah. I'm getting somebody who has a track record of winning football games as a head coach in the NFL if I'm the Giants, and hoping they can bring some stability and they can deal with the media. Like you can deal with the media and the fans. Maybe it's Doug Peterson. Maybe it's Jim Caldwell. Maybe it's Jim Harbaugh.
Recent firings, I think the 2 most likely to get head coaching jobs next year that were recently fired would be Brian Flores and then potentially Mike Zimmer. Either of those in this situation?
Absolutely. I think I think you could make the case that the Giants might have it wouldn't be crazy to have reached out to Brian Flores and gauge interest like during this 24-hour period where you're discussing whether Joe Judge is fired. Dan Quinn,
Yeah.
I think Dan Quinn. That's what they need to me.
Definitely, like if we're just keeping it to interdivision Cowboys, like you're pulling Dan Quinn probably before Kellen Moore if you're the Giants, just because of that situation. You want to get someone a little bit more proven, been to a Super Bowl.
I think Jerry Jones might fire Mike McCarthy and promote Kellen Moore if the Giants try to steal Kellen Moore, and then the Giants can hire Mike McCarthy.
Cowboys lose to the Niners this weekend. Sets off a little chain of events.
Yeah, for sure. The
Marvin Lewis.
I don't know about Marvin Lewis. Maybe Marvin Lewis.
I mean,
Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien in the chat. Yeah, these guys are good. You guys are going. Nick Saban. That's a good one. Christopher Mitchell. Good. Yeah, go get Nick Saban. But no, Bill O'Brien. Lost the national championship game on Monday night. Not really his fault, but he certainly went viral for freaking out in the press box. I think Bill O'Brien got a bad rap as a head coach in Houston, but he went to the playoffs a bunch. Certainly the GM stuff.
Don't give him those roles as general manager, and I think they're in a better spot.
The problem is, I think that somebody in the chat too says I disagree. That's the wrong way to look at a coaching search. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with my statement that that's how I want to do a coaching search. But the Giants are a hot mess, and they need somebody just to like. I'm not saying that they need to. I'm not saying they need to. You don't want to say like go hire a bridge coach, but you've got to hire somebody to get you through more than 2 years. I mean, you can't fire a fourth coach in 8 years. That is a disaster if that happens. So Leslie Frazier is a good name on there. I don't know if Leslie Frazier wants to deal with the New York market, but he certainly has experience and was not a bad coach in Minnesota.
So, we always go the game of, in your mindset, like, does your gut tell you that they would seek someone on the offensive side of the ball, someone on the defensive side? It's not like you have this quarterback that needs, or I should say, a more established quarterback that you'd love to pair with a dynamic offensive mind. You kind of have equal poor defense and offense where you're not really leaning either way for this offense or defensive minded coach.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think my thing is, excuse me. My issue is that if you are the last three guys, you have to understand that, you're going to have to weather a storm. And with Shermer had experience, of course, but McAdoo and Joe Judge were learning how to be head coaches on the fly in this storm that is the New York market. And I don't think that's what you want to have to do with a head coach while trying to, figure out Daniel Jones and deal with, Dave Gettleman and changing front office. I mean, the whole thing is just, I would want a steady hand if I'm the Giants ownership, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's sort of the direction they take.
The perfect bridge coach, Tom Coughlin.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
75-year-old Tom
Urban
Coughlin.
Meyer.
Some people in the chat talking about defensive coordinator Patrick Graham. Any thoughts on Graham?
The thing that sucks is Patrick Graham's a really good coordinator, and now you're going to probably lose him if you go hire a new coach. I don't know that you want to promote from the regime, but I would guess that the Giants fans would not hate the idea.
I'm trying to think of a situation where a really bad team that's had to fire their coach for being bad has hired from within, and that has worked out or even happened. You know what I mean? Like, when you're that bad, you go outside the organization for that reason.
This is a good point by Joe in the chat. I assume it's not Joe Judge, although he's clearly has free time. I don't know if you can put that up on the screen. The issue is that if Daniel Jones doesn't stay, the Giants are pressed to either sign a vet or draft, which this draft is light on QBs. No vet is going to want to play behind this line. That is 100% true. I would tell you that there's a very good chance that those guys who played quarterback for the Giants this year are they didn't have a great, I would guess they didn't have a great time. We can joke about the stats all we want and the bad passer rating and the quarterback sneaks and all that, but these guys had no time behind that offensive line, whether it was Fromm, Daniel Jones, Mike Glennon. I mean, they were under siege Like that makes it that it's, Joe Judge didn't have a good. Hired Jason Garrett. Like that should have been the biggest red flag of all.
Yeah, and talking about the draft picks, if this was a stronger quarterback class, maybe with Jacksonville not taking a quarterback at 1, you're not sure about Detroit's future at 2. You really like Davis Mills with Houston at 3. It's there's going to be opportunities to take a quarterback at 5 and 7 for sure, but do you want to hitch your wagon to Matt Corral when you have Daniel Jones already? Right now, Ryan Wilson has, with a 5th pick, the Giants taking Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame, and then coming back with a 7th pick and taking a center, Tyler Linderbaum, out of Iowa at number 7.
I mean, I think that if you're the Giants, and this is why it's pretty key that they got Dave Gettleman out now, because Dave Gettleman loves to chase bad money with good. He's like, all right, well, I drafted Daniel Jones. It's not working out. I'm doubling down. We're getting, we're signing Kenny Galladay and John Ross, and we're going to, draft all the, draft Kadarius Toney or try to get Devontae Smith. And what they need to do is just say, look, just admit that you're a rebuild. They can't mentally do that. The Giants think that they're supposed to be this great blue blood organization that just wins. I mean, you haven't won. You've won once in 10 years. You are not an elite organization. You need to accept reality, to take these 2 draft picks, figure out what the appreciating assets are on your roster. Like reality is you just got to let Saquon Barkley go. You might love him. He might end up being great somewhere else. You can't pay that dude a huge running back contract.
Would he even command a huge contract at this point?
I don't think he would agree to take a crappy contract. I think he'd just go be a free agent. I don't know. I mean, I think he likes
stuff. I don't know what else will be out there considering the injury history.
It's a little like Baker's deal with the Browns. Like what do you do? And with Daniel Jones, you have to make ideally you get a coach who can help. Maybe he has a breakout season. Maybe he can stay healthy for a year. More likely is that that eventually they have to move on from him and they have to try to figure out the situation elsewhere. They need to. You got to hit on those 2 first-round picks. You just got to get 2 impact players with those first-round picks and start to build up some blue-chip players, and then you can figure out the quarterback situation down the road.
And the quarterback situation in the draft, at least, a lot better in 2023
yes,
than it is in 2022.
And if I'm the Giants, I might even consider trade. I'd try to trade down and acquire more picks. If somebody was trying to get up to get a player at 5 or 7, I'm happily moving down unless I'm just fixated on somebody.
Yeah. It'll be interesting with this draft without that desire to kind of trade up for quarterbacks. Do we see more or less trades in general?
Certainly almost less.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, if you have to stay at 5 and 7 and take 2 players, you need to hit on those players because, this class is pretty good at the top. Like we know there's some good, quality offensive linemen, some quality, defensive players, whether it's edge rushers or Kyle Hamilton, those guys do that. Sorry.
Good.
Yeah, no, not really. We're talking all day for 2 days, and hit on those 2 players, get a steady-handed coach in there, get a smart GM, and just try to sort of build back up. They're trying to flip a switch and win every year. It's like you're not going to magically do that. And Gettleman's been chasing his own job for 3 years now. It's just stupid. I mean, it's a bad way to operate. As an Eagles fan, you should be thrilled.
I'm thrilled. I love. Like I said, 2 times a year. So if you're in charge of the search, give me the top 3 names you're calling to bring into interview.
Doug, Jim Harbaugh, and I don't want to just do all old guys. Maybe Dan Quinn. I'm calling. I'm going to take a tandem. I'm going to cheat and take a tie 3. Call both of the Cowboys guys, Dan Quinn and Kellen Moore. I'm rankling. I'm rankling some feathers over. Is that rankling feathers? What is the feathers line? I'm ruffling feathers. That's what I'm doing. I'm ruffling feathers. Flores on the list too. Sorry. So I'm delirious at this point. So I would think Doug, Flores, Dan Quinn, / Kellen Moore and Jim Harbaugh are sort of the guys I'm looking for, because I know that, like, Harbaugh in particular, I'd be interested with, because he might not be interested if he doesn't like the roster enough, but if he thinks he can win quickly, he'll come there and he will win quickly. He can flip it around.
And that's someone you're okay with giving some personnel control to.
I would allow him to pick I don't think the Giants will do it this way, by the way. I think they will go and get the GM and let the GM hire the coach. And Leftwich is it in Bieniemy or names in there? I see too. Yeah, I don't have a problem with them. And for the record, Adrian Wilson, who former NC State player, former VP of pro personnel with the Cardinals now, former Cardinal safety. There's a rumor out there that if Byron Leftwich, who worked with the Cardinals for a while, obviously, got a job, he would want to hire Adrian Wilson as his GM. Adrian Wilson GM, Byron Leftwich coach is very intriguing if you can be patient with it.
Patience is a key.